One, two, three. Hello, everybody. I'm Derek Arden, and welcome to Monday Night Live, live and uncut podcast with leaders and presenters from all over the world. Tonight, I've got Patricia Fripp with me, who's touring the UK at the moment, which is fantastic. Welcome, Patricia. Thanks for joining us. Patricia last week ran a masterclass for people in my inner circle network in Guildford, which was fantastic. 2.5 hours of nuggets from Patricia. Patricia, you did a hot seat coaching there as well. So tell us your thoughts when you prepare for a masterclass like that when you're on holiday.
Well, let's face it, last year, Derek, you picked me up at the airport in my travel clothes, having not slept, and took me in to do a slightly shorter version than we did this week. So I really loved having a good night's sleep, having my makeup on, my hair nice, and a good jacket. So this was not what I normally do. I normally deliver presentations on sales presentations or presentations. I know who the audience is. And in your case, we had people from all industries. They had a connection to you. However, there were some professional speakers who I could have done what I would normally do for an NSA chapter, but that wasn't appropriate for people who really don't speak that much. And I knew I was going to start with an opening story, which I've only just started telling. I've told it once in public. And I said, should I just tell the story or should I ask them a question? Would it interest you to hear how one conversation led to 5 clients? And you liked that approach, and I did it, and everybody said yes. And you and I had also discussed an exercise that we could do, which is a short way to introduce yourself, which was what was your expertise and who you serve. And you could not spend more than 20 seconds saying it. Because we worked out if there were 20 people, if they took too long, it's eating the time we wanted to give more value. And that was what I was going to do next. However, that all changed in what I would call, well, the pre-event. And ever since my very first speaking engagement, I have always made a point, whenever humanly possible, to talk to audience members before I get on stage or stand at the front of the room and get introduced. And this is what I call be your own warm-up act. And this is important for a couple of reasons. If you are a speaker, or if you're walking into a very important sales presentation, it's very difficult to go from nothing, sitting down, to being on stage with your on-stage or your negotiation voice from nothing. So when you talk to people, one, you are building rapport with the audience. And we are both great promoters, Derek, of the law of reciprocation. And even if you don't talk to everybody, the fact that they see you talking to some of the attendees, they know this speaker is interested in us as people. It's good for building rapport. It's good to let the audience know, and it warms up your voice and your body from nothing to being on stage. So it's a very important step for, as you can tell, multiple reasons. Also, by talking to, it was Paul I was talking to, and he works for a charity, sounds like a wonderful organization with disabled children, helping them make friends and socialize and learn from play together, as well as giving the family a little peace and quiet, and they can focus on the other children. Because if you have a child that needs more attention, other children feel left out. So very important charity, which I know you support, Derek. And I was in when we were talking, I said, "Is do you have any important presentations to deliver?" And he said, "Well, I suppose it's when I talk to the council and try and get money that they don't have." So I was helping him a little. I said, "Well, would you like to come up and we'll continue working on that in the presentation?" So after the opening, it seemed more appropriate at the time to bring him up. And to freeze frame this, I had said to Derek, in America, people love hot seats. Whatever you're teaching, they love someone getting up and they're seeing the process. And if I'm doing mini coaching for speakers, I mean, they line up. You have to limit them. Hey, let me do 7 before any more come up. And you didn't know if English people would participate in hot seats. Well, Paul did, and we were working on not only what he said, but how he said it. Slow down, short sentences, pause. So that worked very well. And the secret when you do a hot seat, of course, you have to help the audience also understand how some of the principles or some of what we are doing would fit into their lives and business and their presentations, which by the feedback, I believe they probably did. So once you do one hot seat, it's a lot easier to get the audience to participate. And then because some people had to leave earlier, including Paul, we make sure that they have their question answered or advice that they need before they leave. And
Patricia, shall I
yeah,
put up? Let me put up the one or two pictures from
sure.
last week. They're probably in the wrong order, but if we find
Oh no, that's me getting off the plane.
that's you get yeah, that's you getting off the plane and off the UA 901 from San Francisco, and that's me, a very bleary-eyed at 7:25 in the morning. But
Well, right now I'm looking at me, which is probably a photo that should be edited out. I don't look too good. But anyway, Paul Coleman is in there, as you can see, who's with us. And then the Paul I was coaching was also there. So this was when I was doing my opening story. That's right. Then when I coached him. Yeah.
and I think I was watching his body language quite carefully, and whilst he'd agreed, he hadn't really let himself know. He didn't really know what he'd let himself in for, but he was really enjoying it, and it seemed to make a difference. So, how did you do it?
How did I do it?
What was your process with Paul getting him to talk about his introduction to the council?
Well, it went from the conversation, but then when he was up, I just did what I would do with any client. You start at the beginning, be very clear. What is it you're selling? What is it you are talking about? And as you would say in negotiations, Derek, what do you want the outcome to be? And then how would you normally begin the presentation? And of course, that's no, 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 no. That's too long. That's too waffly. You're not saying anything. So I said, what you need to do, forget all this, oh, whatever it is people waffle on. I said, get to the point fast. You might have a couple of pleasantries, but then you say, thank you for the opportunity to discuss there and I can't remember exactly, but it was really the value or the value of what they do to, and you have to make it bigger than you. So, for example, always reinforce this helps the children, this helps the family, and this helps the community. Because the more you can stress how the work you do helps the community, now you're speaking the language of the council. And you will remember with Paul, we said, slow down, speak slower, pause. Because even when the other people are not speaking. You are having a duologue with them. When you leave the space, the pause, it is not nothing. It is one of the most important parts of the communication because you have to give the counselors in this time to think, never thought of that. Yeah, they really are doing a lot of good. So you see, you give people time to think what you want them to think. If you have a great message, but you talk too fast, not only can't they remember it, they don't have this communication. And that's what we worked on.
So we should be pausing when we make our presentations to, or when we're coaching our clients to present to win pitches, because we do tend to talk quite quickly
Yeah.
on in those circumstances, and people want to get through the presentation and close the presentation and make the sale.
Well, really, it is because very often people don't like speaking or they think they're not good speakers. They want to rush through to get it over. Well, not if it's not an important presentation.
Mm.
And again, you have to rehearse. You have to rehearse, 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 rehearse. So it isn't as scary, and you remember what you're going to say. And then you will notice we had your client, and his presentation was really to lead a staff meeting introducing new ways we're going to do business. That was it. Yes. And so you're saying it looks like he.
Well, as
Yeah.
you know, that I sometimes sit in the
Yeah.
mediations and read body language.
Yes.
Actually, what Dave's doing there is saying this is a pain in the neck being up there because he's got his hand on his neck, and that's what
Yeah.
people miss out when they're reading body language. They don't realize that where the hand goes very often is what people are thinking. The benefit of reading body language is it's 5 times more difficult to lie with the body language. It's telling you what's going on in their minds rather than what they're saying. But he did relax a little bit after
Yes, he
the.
did. But that is, well, it's not a verbal tick, it's a gesture tick. Because when he was sitting in the audience, his default position was to do that. So I
Oh,
think you need to talk to him because he does it all the time, not only because I put him in the hot seat. And remember, this was not a forced. Now, if you say who would like to volunteer, maybe with a British audience, they won't. But when you always start talking and you just continue the conversation with them standing up. So
yeah.
I don't believe, but I probably asked, he could have said, no, I don't want to. But his presentation was introducing the new, better way we're going to do business for his team member. However, how it worked out, we worked on really a sales presentation, and then we all decided that really he has to teach his associates the best way for sales presentations. Because unless he's the only one in his company selling, and I know my premise when I used to do a lot, I for a couple of major companies, I worked with all their salespeople. And my point was, imagine you spent a year getting an appointment with a really good prospect. I mean, you worked hard to get this appointment. And then suddenly, Derek, or the person who's your best salesperson, who's prepped, suddenly calls in and said, I was skiing this weekend. I broke my leg. I'm not going to make the appointment. And the only person in the office is the brand newest salesperson, has to go do it. So you have to train everyone, no matter what their experience, you have to let them know this is the way the presentation flows, this is what you do. And even if he is the main breadwinner for the firm, you should always train people to be prepared to step in.
Mm, absolutely.
Anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. 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 So then we moved on, didn't we? Then we talked about openings, and you have some fabulous openings. Imagine,
Well, I
if
don't know. Did we? I don't think we didn't do that in our session last week. I don't think so. What we did do is have them work. What we did right after the coffee break, we had them work on what is their expertise. Now,
and
some of our attendees were there. Maybe they remember what we did better than us. Or the whole point, and I wrote a LinkedIn post which Janice commented on already, because she does a lot of this. And the question somebody asked is, how long did you spend preparing that presentation? Well, I thought about what would be the best way to handle it. But apart from my opening, and we knew we were wanted to do the what is your expertise, not your job title, and what's the value, it was really a blank canvas based on what people want and who turned up. But my point is to prepare for that presentation my entire career. Because when you are not quite sure what's going to happen, you have to be totally focused and play off what anyone gives you. Because when you have a formal presentation that you give all the time, although you still have to be present and make it feel like this is not the 86th time this month I've delivered this presentation, you can tell. But when you know you have a core presentation, you can almost imagine like you're out of your body, looking down at yourself, delivering the presentation, and start looking at that corner is getting restless. We need to change something or give a break or get some audience participation. You can't do that in a session like we did last week. You have to be totally there and at the same time aware, is everyone with us? Or do people who are not interested in, they don't think they give sales presentations? How can we tie that into them?
sure. Well, Kate was nodding her head, so clearly we didn't talk about that. We've talked about that on other
Yes.
programs. And it's interesting you should talk about people being nervous and don't think they can sell it, because of course Kate's book, The Imposter Phenomenon, is selling well at the moment. So we'll give Kate a plug there.
Well, good.
Thank
Well, we can do whatever you like, Derek, but what we could always do is do some little hot seats here.
Oh wow! I wonder. Watch the body language now. People will be ducking and diving here.
Well, I know if we got a few speakers here,
Yeah.
they might want to work on their opening lines.
Well, we've got Janice Litvin laughing, and she's in San Francisco, and we know Americans are more up for it than Brits usually. Kate looks like she might be curious to do it, so Kate's nodding, and Joe Berry's looking a bit doubtful as I look
Well,
at
I
things.
don't know, but I helped Joe, and Joe said she's going to take my suggestions. So if she wanted to, she could tell us, or I could. Do I have your permission, Joe, to tell you what I said? Is she nodding? I can't see you.
Can you unmute Joe, please?
Yes, I'm sorry,
Great.
I did it at the same time as you did it. Yes, no, of course. And I'm totally transfixed here. Like, yeah, love this.
Well, do you want to tell me, Joe, and tell our audience how you would have opened your presentation before we were together?
Yeah, I would have started with 42 years ago, I woke up to the news a bomb had gone off, and I just start telling the story. Or I might start with the
But
moment.
you said, I remember the words, I am going to tell you about somewhere.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I'm going to tell
Okay.
you a story from far ago. Yeah.
Now, what I would suggest,
I have it written down. Yeah.
what you could say, imagine how I felt.
Yeah.
I opened to the news, a bomb had exploded rather than go off. Explode is a wonderful word because we can almost see an explosion.
Mm.
And then, do you then tell the audience another line about the bomb?
I would just tell the story of,
Well, start at the beginning and add the changes. And if we can spotlight Joe, please.
She's
Oh,
pinned.
she's spotlight.
She's pinned.
She's pinned. Okay, well, let me, because I'm only seeing me pinned, but okay, as long as the rest of the audience can. So, Joe, what I want you to do is say, imagine how I felt waking up and hearing, and you could do it in dialogue as if it were the BBC voice. A bomb has exploded in such and such.
imagine how I felt when I woke up to hear a bomb had exploded in a hotel in Brighton. And when I saw the hotel in the news, I realized that the room my dad had been staying in didn't exist anymore.
Okay, that's good.
Imagine how I felt.
No, that's good. So imagine how I felt waking up and hearing. And so put quotation marks around it. This morning in Brighton, a bomb exploded in the Pavilion Hotel. And as they flashed up the image, I realized my dad was staying in the room where the windows are blown out or whatever it was. And then, do you add any more details there after your dad was there?
Yes.
Okay, what comes next?
I talk about, well, okay, I'll do it.
Give us the words.
Okay. I then waited and waited for news. And 6 hours later, my brother rang to say that he'd given a policeman.
Now, this is the difference. Okay. For 6 hours, I waited by the phone with the TV on. When the phone rang, I heard my brother say, Joe, so a story has characters and dialogue. We love to hear the characters speak. And what you are doing is what I call you are reporting on the dialogue. What makes a story come alive is when our characters speak. So if you say you picked up the phone and heard my brother say, imagine quotation, Joe, then you and the audience knows who's speaking. Your brother is talking to you, Joe. Now, what did he say in the words as if he were saying it?
I've just identified our dad's body through the signet ring. And I want you straight away to go and pick up George and Sasha from their schools and tell them that their dad is dead.
Okay, good. Now, just as we were doing with Paul, I want you to cut that into shorter phrases. Joe, I've just identified our dad. I could tell it was him by a signet ring. Now, you understand what you were saying by that. You are giving us more information than the words you're using, because we know there isn't much of dad left if you identified him by his ring. So again, you are emotionally engaging the audience and they are seeing and imagining and they know more than you're saying. That's why you deliver it this way. And then I need you to go to, I can't remember the name, Sasha and school, and tell them your dad is dead. Or you might say, I don't know what words you're going to use, but you have to tell them their dad is dead. And you see, that's all in your brother's dialogue. And the fact that he said, I don't know what words you're going to use. Again, you're adding to the experience for the audience. I don't know what I would say either. So you're really gripping them. You've got them by the throat and you're going to lead them anywhere you want them to go. Is that helpful?
Very helpful. Thank you.
All right. So does
Well done, Joe. That was very brave of you. And I've got it all recorded so you can watch it a few times, well, many, many times.
Yeah.
Back to you, Patricia.
And I can carry on, and I can like rewrite it with shorter sentences and different voices, like my sister's voice when I told her. And so, yeah, great. Thank you.
Good. Right. Does anyone else want any help with anything at all?
I think Kate had her hand up. Kate.
Oh, and Janice Litvin has her hand up. Yeah.
Well, let's go to Kate and then see if we've got time for Janice. As Janice lives near you, I'm sure she can buy you.
Oh, I know, but Janice wants to be part of the act now, so we'll do them both. Okay. Kate, then Janice.
Thank you. Mine's, I think, really quick, because what I learnt from Patricia at the session last Monday was the phrasing about my expertise is. And my expertise is in the imposter phenomenon. And one of the challenges that I said to you at the time, Patricia, is the fact that everybody knows it as a syndrome. So how on earth do I then manage to get that over? And so I think I've remembered the phrase correctly. And this is where I'd like you to, if there was something else to add on. So it's my expertise is in the imposter phenomenon, which you may know as imposter syndrome. However, once you've heard me speak or read my book, you will realize that the difference is, and then I can't remember what that word should be.
Well, I can't remember what I said.
No, but that difference is important.
Pause. The difference is dramatic.
That'll do nicely. Thank you. And I really like the phrase, my expertise is in, rather than I am an expert in.
Yes.
I think that works superbly well. Thank you very much.
Good.
I'll pass it over to Janice.
Okay, I'll remove the pins, and Janice needs to unmute.
All right, she's unmuted now. Ready.
Do you want the build-up, or should you hear the first words?
Well, just what are we looking at, Janice?
Okay. My new keynote called Recruit to Retain in the Age of AI, The Power of Human Connection.
Okay, good.
Which I'm delivering on May 8th.
All right. So you've been introduced, you walk on stage and you say.
Just imagine the new org charts have just been released. There you see 3 team members underneath your box. You're thinking, I don't have a team. As you dig further, you see AI marketing Joe, AI sales Gene, and AI communications Bill. At the recent SHRM AI HI conference.
Good. Now, I like this. The only suggestion I would have, when you say just imagine, there's nothing wrong with it. I have a tendency to just say imagine. What you could also do is, let's fast forward 3 months. You're looking at the new updated org chart. So, and again, what's right or wrong? And this is true with every phrase you're going to use. You try it out a few times and see which feels best for you.
Right.
But yeah, but you know, you could fast forward them a couple of months. If you know this is definitely coming in their future,
Yeah,
I would try fast forward three
yeah,
months.
it's coming.
Yeah. 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 And then at the end, you could bring it back to, will that be your reality in 3 months? It might even be two.
It might be now.
Yeah, yeah. It might be. Yeah, or you might say, will it be 3 months? You might want to check with your office and see if it happened while you were listening to me. Because your pal who is always say this is going to be obsolete by the time I finish speaking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's Graham Jones, of course. Who,
Yes, the famous Graham
the
Jones.
famous Graham Jones. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, Patricia, I'm concerned about your time because I know you're in the Randolph Hotel in Oxford and you're on holiday and you've been visiting museums and you're probably hungry and dinner starts quite.
No, I'm going to change my room. I'm going to change my room, but I'm all packed ready. Good. Well, are there any other burning questions or comments from our audience before I wave goodbye?
Are you coming home?
When am I coming home? I get home on Thursday, which is the 2nd of April, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the 2nd of April. And we will be having lunch in the Randolph Hotel in Oxford on the 1st. And I shall be visiting some bookshops in Oxford, and then we'll be catching the train to Heathrow with your very heavy luggage, which you tell me is not very heavy at all, but that's another.
Well, it isn't heavy compared to the NSA
Oh,
convention.
no.
Janice and I have gone to the NSA convention on the same flight several times, and she will know what heavy is. This isn't. Well, it started at £34, my duffel, which a woman for over 2 weeks is not bad. Now, I've added just a few items, like I was at my sister-in-law's new show in Wimborne, which is Toya's Stories and Songs. And they have a beautiful coffee table book, which I, of course, bought. And helped with the merchandise. That one of the guitarists who also drives does the merch, but he need a little help.
He's English, of course. So
Yes, but no, he was good. But the point is, if you're putting three items together, you haven't put together before you haven't put together. And then there was a long line. So I took it upon myself after organizing his three items to go back and say, these are your merchandising opportunities. There are two packages, $45 and £7 £45 and 75. This is what this is. This. Make up your mind before you get to the table. Any questions? Right. So I went down the line and did that.
fantastic. I think most people know this, but our speaker tonight had an issue over the weekend. She sent me a WhatsApp at 7 o'clock last night. She's a friend of Patricia's, and Patricia was aware of that. I got a WhatsApp from Patricia at 8 o'clock last night when I was just finishing my newsletter. And Patricia said, would I like her to step in, which was absolutely fantastic. So I was still sitting there at 10 o'clock changing my newsletter to put Patricia in it. So I had to have a second Guinness to keep me going on that. Patricia, thanks for stepping in. That's absolutely brilliant. It's lovely to see you. And I'm going to ask you for one final remark, please, for 2026, for all of us watching, listening, and sensing all your street smarts.
Well, my favorite walkaway line is all learning requires repetition and reinforcement. what I will add to because you acted on it, which is that's really nice if people take your advice. And this is, I learned from Ed Tate, who was the 2000 world champion of public speaking. And when the light goes on, you know you have to close your presentation or you're going to lose, even if you have the best presentation if it goes late. So he went to an emergency close. And having heard what he planned to do, I said your emergency close was better. It worked well. So I have an emergency close, which sometimes I plan anyway, or I use when I don't really have one planned, like last week. And I say, thank you for being a kind and generous audience. And I hope you will remember me. However, much more important than remembering me, remember what Fripp stands for. Frequently reinforce ideas that are productive and profitable. And you picked it up and used it, Derek. Yours is?
Remember Arden: attitude, resilience, determination, enthusiasm, and always negotiate.
Good, good. So perhaps we could challenge everybody, whether it's your first or last name, come up with an acronym that you could close a conversation or presentation. Now, just because Godfrey is going to say Lancashire is too long, I delivered that many years ago at a speaker conference at the national headquarters. And the woman who followed me said, oh, I loved what you did with your name, Fripp. I think Hershkowitz is too difficult. And then later, somebody got up to speak and said, Sue, I've made an acronym out of Hershkowitz, which he did. It made perfect sense. However, the problem is an audience would never remember it. Not that many. But her name is Sue, so she could have Sue or Susan. Or Susan
Patricia, that's been fantastic.
H.
Yeah, sorry, the internet went down there. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for stepping in. Thanks for making sure the Wi-Fi worked. I hope your room changes. And can I ask members of Monday Night Live to give you the usual vote of thanks in the normal way? Absolutely fantastic. And will you come back and join us in the summer from perhaps from San Francisco, and then we can challenge everybody to come up with that acronym for their emergency close?
Well, certainly you do so much for me with my travel plans and my chauffeur. I can't say no to you.
Well, Godfrey's promised to show you around the part of Dorset you've missed, and I think it's the Cerne Abbas giant you want to see again. And anybody that knows about the Cerne Abbas giant, it's quite extraordinary. So I suggest that you Google the Cerne Abbas giant when you're having a cup of coffee later on. Patricia Fripp, thanks for joining us.